All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, fellow Pandemonium travelers. This is day 95, I believe, of the Seattle Pandemonium Shutdown. Yeah. So the police abandoned the East Precinct last night. The story kind of went viral. I don't know what that means, you know. I don't think they burned it down or anything. I think they tagged, around it. Not like Minneapolis where they like ransacked it and burned it down. The police will probably resume ownership of it, but even people there on the ground are sort of claiming that they have authority in the autonomous zone of Capitol Hill, which is, come on, guys. It's a little bit of LARPing, isn't it? If the state wanted to come back in and National Guard come in and take it over, guess what? They're going to take it back, okay? Not going to be Kowloon or something. Look, defund the police. I had to go over this last night on Twitter, because that's pretty much where I live, watching what people are talking about. Okay, disband the police is what Minneapolis did. Now, again, what does that mean? It just means that you can't call them? Like, what happens to all the vehicles? What happens to all the gear? What happens to all the guns that those police own? What do you do with those? And then, again, this defund the police thing, it's, on the one hand, I guess it's good messaging because it seems so outrageous and counterintuitive, I guess, from our normal, kind of discourse about police and reform and stuff. But the issue I have with it is that it's not really good signaling or good messaging, because you go, wait, defund the police, and then it's not like a yes or a no answer. It's like a speech. It's like an elaborate plan, and I've seen some really wacky stuff, like that we create a Green New Deal and give everyone jobs, and that will solve poverty, and then that will solve crime, and you're just like, that is so out there. I can't help you. I can't sell this. I can't sell a giant sort of communist plan to like give everyone a make-work job. I don't know. I don't know exactly. But the issue is that you do have city budgets. And then city budgets do often have a lot of money for law enforcement. And then law enforcement uses it to buy tear gas and pepper spray and tanks and drones and all kinds of wacky stuff, right? And all the body armor and all the stuff. They then police the citizenry with all this amped up tech, and then you get like what's his name, Daniel Shaver? These amped up warrior cops with AR-15s and body armor and all this stuff, thinking they're going to war with the citizenry, and then of course you get the outcome you get from that, right? The obvious outcome. Now, on the other hand, police do police and prevent crime just by being there. Now, again, they do investigate crimes, but they don't do a real great job of solving things like homicides. It's something like half of all homicides go unsolved in America. I could double check that. That sounds sort of frightening, to be quite honest, and maybe that's inflated to be sort of shocking, but that's the stat I've seen. So the police they do investigate, they do find criminals, they do stop active shooters. That does happen. And they do investigate, and they break up things like human trafficking rings. The Bellevue police have done this multiple times with, like those massage parlors and stuff. They're importing girls like from East Asia, and then they're kind of tuggy slaves, you know what I mean? And so they go in there, they track all the people who come and go to them for a while, and then they bust all the Johns, I guess. Are they Johns at that point? And the ringleaders, and then, kind of get these women out of basically captivity. So they do good things. They also just accidentally, or maybe intentionally, kill the citizenry from time to time. And we've kind of gotten normalized to it, and we shouldn't. And then this is the next issue with the defund the police thing. You might defund your city police, right? You could defund the Seattle PD. Okay. You still have King County Sheriff. They still have a budget. you still have calls for emergencies of various kinds, right? And again, you would still have the problem of these armed officers showing up to a scene of some kind, and it then becomes an armed confrontation, whether it was at the beginning or not, right? A domestic dispute between two people with no weapons, and now you show up with a guy with a gun. Now there's a gun involved when there wasn't before, so it immediately escalates, which is why, on the one hand, I urge people to... could have ran it. I urge people to not call the police if you don't need to. If it doesn't need to be resolved with law enforcement, don't call them. All you're going to do is make a bunch of paperwork for everyone, and they may or may not solve the problem that you called them for. I'm just saying, right? The idea of community policing, right? Policing other people's worst behaviors, right? Not all the behaviors. Don't be a Karen, right? Don't be a Karen, but go ahead and, apply pressure in social situations when you see people that are doing something that's potentially criminal, right? Neighborhood watch and all of that kind of stuff. Now, that all being said, defund the police. What's going to happen is people keep pointing to this Camden, New Jersey thing. Oh, they disbanded their police and then everything's fine and crime went down. Well, apparently, this is the counterfactual, is the crime rate went down in the whole country in the same time period, so it's not really correlated to that policy necessarily. Now, on the other hand, they didn't just magically not have police. This is the thing that I don't think people understand. What they did is just incorporated the city laws and policing into the county law enforcement, like the sheriffs, right? You still now have police, right? And the next thing that will happen is private security. It'd be a great time to be a private security company in Minneapolis, because armed or unarmed even, I mean, the thing about unarmed is they have to just call the police if somebody's really doing something wrong. Armed security can shoot people, I suppose that's why they're armed. Good luck doing all that paperwork if that's your business, but you are going to see this, because if there is reduced response from law enforcement, people with the means will pay for their own protection by, rough men who stand ready to do violence on their behalf. And we slip another notch closer to the book Snow Crash. Armed burbclaves, suburban enclaves that have walls and gates and drones and robot defenses and machine guns and all the kinds of stuff. And at a certain point, the police won't be able to police whatever it is you're doing to defend your home or your neighborhood, right? Like, they can pass laws all they want. They gotta come down here and take my claymores off my lawn. I'm kidding. Don't put claymores on your lawn. Not yet, anyway. But yeah, defunding the police means reappropriating some of their budget to go to other things. Now, this is the argument, is look at all these other services that directly help the citizenry and help reduce poverty and thus reduce crime. Why don't we take some of this money and, instead of putting it on the back end with the police policing all of the chaos, put it at the bottom and maybe lift the floor a little bit. Now, there is definitely something to that. However, and I'm urging caution on this, you guys. I know everybody wants immediate, swift change, and that's how we do stupid shit like we get a Patriot Act. That's how we end up getting into wars that we just can't ever seem to get out of. You could likely make your whole community policing situation worse by passing irresponsible legislation because you want change now. All right? Now, I understand how unsatisfying that is to hear, but I have to live here too, and I don't want you knee-jerk making policy that gets rammed through and has God knows what in it, right? Stuff that's not even related to policing or the community, pork, weird subsidies, new taxes, etc., okay? Just be careful, because down the road, we'll pay the price for rushing these kinds of things. And the worst would be that you make the policing situation worse, which leads to more people getting hurt by the police, more people getting arrested, etc., etc. That being said, I guess we're doing it, right? This is the conservatives and everybody are gonna cry and scream about how it's not necessary and how there's not really that many black people getting killed by the police, and more white people get killed by the police, but it doesn't really matter because these sort of liberal urban, cities like Seattle, the mayor's not going to stand up to these demands for police reform. She's terrified. She knows that she's probably not getting reelected. I have to think that she knows that that's not happening, because the activists are pissed at her and the police chief, and then the other citizenry are pissed at her because it makes it looks like she's just letting people run wild and not putting an end to the protests, but they're allowed to protest, they're just not allowed to riot, at which point you then get these scuffles with the police and the fire and the tear gas and all this stuff. So it all looks bad on her from both sides. It's like she didn't play it right. She didn't play the game right, and now everybody's mad at her. People are saying lawlessness, right? Now again, just because there's no police doesn't mean there's not order. There certainly can be community policing and they can make order, but like actual law enforcement who uphold the law are vacant from that section of Capitol Hill. I mean, that's what I'm being told. Oh, you guys. But the conservatives are going to get drug along with this, whether they like it or not. Cities are going to reform their law enforcement, and that's going to look however that looks. And again, expect an increase in private security, and they're going to be, I have a feeling they're going to be a lot less polite than the police are, because you're making them work harder than they want to if they have to do stuff. Guess the police do too. Less of a mandate to uphold the law, though. That's the issue. They will defend property and people, not uphold the law. So, yeah. I don't know how that's actually going to work. But also, your city budgets are about to tank because our economy is crumbling, which means tax revenue is down, which means you're going to not just see a reappropriation of funds from, say, law enforcement to, schools and public services, but they're all going to go down as well. So you're now going to have fewer police with fewer patrols, fewer vehicles, etc., etc. You're going to have an increase in crime because we're going to have more poverty because everyone's unemployed and all this other stuff. It's creating a perfect storm for an immense amount of crime and urban decay that leaves cities in shambles like Detroit. Now, maybe I'm wrong and like Seattle isn't about to become Gotham City, but I just see all these factors coming together and everyone will righteously demand it. And they're going to feel great about it when they pass the legislation to defund the police department, and they're going to put us all in a situation where there might be, a surge in crime. We're going to find out because this is just happening and there's nothing you can do about it. All right. That's about enough from me for one day. Anyways, I guess we're defunding the police. Talk to you later. Bye.